Welcome back, everyone, to part two of Ashley's journey. So, if you missed it, part one, Ashley shared her cancer journey and all that entailed. And for part two, I'm going to be asking her some questions, more about the spiritual side of her journey. And the first question I have is you mentioned when you were sharing that you were a completely different person before you had cancer compared to after.
Mhm.
And if you don't mind just walking me through us through what changes occurred, who you were before you got your diagnosis compared to who you are now.
Okay. So just really quick, um, I never refer to my cancer diagnosis as like my cancer journey. Um, just because when I think of a journey, I think of like, something that I've chosen to be on. I've chosen to go on a journey to, wherever on vacation. That's like a journey to me where you like have a plan and you set a destination and then you getting to that destination is the journey. So I always refer to it as a cancer experience. Um, just because you don't always get to choose your experiences. You have things that just happen for you and happen to you that you have to just learn to um, be with and deal with and kind of make your way through. But when I think of cancer, it's definitely not a journey.
Yeah, and I apologize.
Oh
Thank you
no,
for
don't no. Like
sharing
lots of
that.
people
That
call it that. But just when I think about a journey, I'm just like, I think of like childhood being a journey, motherhood being a journey, marriage being a journey. Just our life is a journey. But
right.
when it's like specific things like that that are so like daunting, I guess, in a sense, like that's an experience. Like,
Mhm.
did I want to get the flu? No, that was an experience,
Right.
like, right? Like, that's just how I look at it. Or even when people, I've had this conversation with a lot of other cancer survivors or people who have had family members who have had cancer and who have passed away. When people say, oh, they lost their battle, um, like, oh, so courageously, they fought and they lost. And um, I don't like that. You don't lose, you didn't lose. Um, you are just no longer fighting. And with that comes some peace and some reassuring that you did everything you could and this is what can happen. But when people say, oh, they lost their battle, I don't like that. They didn't lose anything. If anything, they gained a better perspective. They gained their angel wings. They gained the ability to see things so much more clearly. They gained the ability to become our angels. Um, we lose them, but they gain so much, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
That's just a different way to think about it. Okay. So what was I like before? Um, Crazy. um, I was very controlling. I am a type A personality. I like to control essentially every aspect of my life. I felt like I never really just enjoyed living. I never really just enjoyed being alive and I didn't I enjoyed being a mom, but not to the fullest. I feel like I was very just really controlling, and I feel like if things didn't go my way, it kind of sent me spiraling, I guess, in a sense. Um, Everything was so timed and everything had to be so scheduled. And there is definitely a time and a place for that, but like I look back and I don't enjoy that person. And I just remember like, oh, if we can get through this phase, or if we can get through this, and then it'll be this. And like, I remember always kind of like dopamine searching, I guess, in the sense of like, I always had to have, I was always waiting for something to end. Like, when you're a teenager and you're just like waiting for Friday, and it's just like that vicious cycle of you're just waiting for Friday, you're just waiting for the weekend. Um, I guess I had kind of just like fallen into that pattern. And um, I remember like getting like so caught up in like drama and like who's friends with who. And um, I don't like, I think back now and I'm just like, how unimportant. Like, what a waste of my time and my energy and my skills. And um, yeah, so much has changed because when you're given like a timeline, when you're given a time frame of like you might not be here in 5 years. And I mean, we might not be here in 5 years. We really don't know. I remember my oncologist giving me the analogy of like, are you going to die from cancer tomorrow? No, but are you going to walk out of across cancer and maybe get hit by a bus? Maybe. Like, it's not going to be cancer that kills you tomorrow, but something could kill you tomorrow, right? But it's just when you're not thinking about that, you kind of get like so wrapped up, I feel like, in just things that don't matter. Um, yeah, like I think back and I just like think of how much my relationships have changed even. Um, and like how many relationships and friendships I've let go of. Um, ones that I was giving so much time and energy to that I wasn't getting in return, or ones that weren't bringing me joy or, fulfilling any part of my life. You come to realize like how important and valuable your time is. And yeah, I think that's the biggest thing is just, and I always joke with my friends because we've since moved. So I have new friends who have never known pre-cancer Ashley, and they're always like, "Oh, I wonder what you were like before." And I was like, "No." Like, not that I wasn't like nice. I was nice and friendly, and I've always had a good heart. It wasn't anything like that. It was almost more like how I felt on the inside and even how like I viewed myself. There was definitely a lot of like self inner growth that had to happen. Um, yeah.
And today, how would you say your life has changed?
Um, today it's great. um, things are so much more relaxed. We definitely don't live rushed like we used to. I always joke like we're really slow. We're not slow, but like we just like to live a really slow life. Um, my favorite thing is to wake up on a Saturday morning and not have to set an alarm. Not that I need an alarm. My children are up way early, but have a hot cup of coffee and like we will sit in bed till like 11, 12 o'clock. And it is my absolute favorite thing. Like we just, yeah, it just live so much more slowly. And I enjoy, um, I enjoy the little things more. You and I had a conversation not that long ago, and it was like the whole purpose of our lives is the little things, like enjoying a hot cup of coffee, watching the sunset off of our deck, squeezing in that little extra 15 minutes in bed, snuggling my kids. All of those things are just so amazing. And I don't really think I appreciated or cared about those things before. Um, yeah, our life is there's really like no drama. Um, we have very little friends. Like we have very quality friends, but you know, after high school, I find that you kind of realize like you don't need 25 best friends. That's kind of insane, and no one has time for that. Um, and we just are really content being at home. And yeah, that's like life is just so different in
Yeah,
the best possible way.
uh, yeah, it's so beautiful. And I can relate, like, you find more presence. And when you were saying, like, before, like, always just like waiting for that next thing to happen, right? Like, waiting for the future outcome, and then I will be happy instead of enjoying those everyday moments. And when you can truly be present in those moments, you don't need anything else, right? You don't need the external clothing or trip, or not that those things aren't nice, but you're not using them to fill you up like you once
Yeah.
maybe have. Yeah, I love that. Thank you. Um, so you talked about fear a lot, and I remember seeing this shift of like when you, even before the diagnosis, a lot of fear, which is 100% natural given what you were going through. But there was a switch at one point. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it was after you found out it was autoimmune that you fully trusted you were going to be okay.
Yeah.
So, how do you think you made that switch? Was it conscious or?
I think because I had prayed so hard. Um, and then to see it manifest and come true against like, all odds. I think that really changed my fear. And then I remember early on, you and I had had a conversation, and I remember saying to you, like, why is this happening to me? Like, why me? Why is this happening to me? And I remember you saying, instead of asking why it's happening to you, ask why it's happening for you. And I remember like thinking, like, that's stupid. um, and I remember like just thinking, like, why is this happening to me? And then I'd like switch. Okay, why is this happening for me? Why is this happening for me? What am I supposed to learn from this? Like, um, and I remember in a lot of sessions early on, and even like um other people that you had told me to go to, like, go to her, she's really great. Go to her, she's really great. Go to this person, they're really great. Um, every single one of them, including you, had said, you really need to look at what faith means to you. You really need to look at what faith means to you and what it looks like for you, and um like, what is faith? And I had kind of always been like spiritual in a sense, but then when that happened, I felt like I really shut down in a way because I felt like I was being let down because I hadn't changed my mindset. Um, and after I think like the third or fourth person was like, you need to look at what faith means to you. And I remember I had started journaling and really tried to hone in on like, what exactly is faith to me? Like at this point, what do I even believe in? Um, and you know that saying, like, faith over fear. And that's kind of when I like really took a step back and figured out what faith meant to me. And then once I was able to figure that out for myself, it really changed my perspective on how I looked at fear. And I remember I was so scared of getting that stage 4 cancer diagnosis and then I got it. And I remember being like I had said in part one, did I do that? Like, did I manifest that because I was so fearful of what was going to happen? Obviously, no. But um then when I really like started to hone in on what my faith was and kind of, I guess, letting go of what I thought should happen or like how I wanted it to go, and just like saying like I trust that what is meant to happen is going to happen. This was something that I actually had no control over, and that is definitely one of the things that I think this might have been given to me, was because I really did need to learn that there were going to be parts of life that I wasn't going to be able to control. And that was obviously, that was like a hard blow. Um, that was a hard lesson to learn if that was one of the lessons that was in there, which it definitely was. Um, but I think it was just realizing that fear does so much more harm than it does good. And really, like, all that you're doing is you're just scaring yourself into something that may not even be real, right? Whereas faith can open you up to so many more things when you just trust that it will work out. And I mean, just because it doesn't work out how you want it to work out doesn't necessarily mean that it didn't work out, right? Like plans can change, things can change, but it's just knowing that you don't have to control everything. There are other aspects in our lives that can kind of help, move things along, if that makes sense, right?
That's, yeah, very beautiful. And it reminds me of like when things are going good in your life, it's so easy to have faith. But the moment things go wrong, that's when you get challenged and you have to choose, like you said, faith over fear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Um, Beautiful. So you did mention a lot about your angels and your grandpa who crossed over, as well as your father-in-law supported you quite a bit during this time. So how do you feel they supported you? Like, were you able to feel them? Did they give you messages? I know the answer to this, but I just want you to share with everyone. How did
I
that come through for you?
Well, firstly, my grandpa coming through in my dreams and like telling me to continue to push for that initial diagnosis was huge. Um, and oh, I just remember like, please don't take me. Like I remember praying at night, like in silence, just please don't take me yet. Please don't take me yet. Like I love you and I miss you and I want to see you again, but please don't take me yet. They showed up in so many ways. My grandpa showing up in my dreams and telling me to keep pushing. And then obviously just the synchronicities of how the timeline of my diagnosis to meeting my surgeon, which we know doesn't happen. I met him 4 or 5 weeks prior to when I was initially supposed, and I was supposed to meet a totally different doctor, even. I wasn't even meeting him. Um, there was just so much. There was so much. Um, they helped, like I would have random biopsies. Like sometimes things would come up and they'd be like, oh, we got to biopsy this. We had a lymph node come up in my other armpit that they were like, we need to biopsy that. And I remember I had gone to my uncle, who is like an amazing energy healer. Um, and he also does different modalities. And I had gone to him and I was like, can you please work on this lymph node? Because I know it's not cancer, but like nobody else seems to know that. And I remember just like praying. And I remember going for that biopsy, similar to like the liver one, um, at the Cross Cancer, and the lady's like going over my armpit, over my armpit, over my armpit. And she's like, I don't know, there's nothing there. And then she called my oncologist who was upstairs, and he was like, I don't know, there was something on that scan. So like take a biopsy of something. And she was like, oh my God, okay. So then like, and it took forever. Like she was like, had the needle in there and my lymph nodes kept moving. And she's like, I don't know I don't know what I'm poking here. And then obviously they came back completely normal and completely clear. But um it was like in those moments that I just like, they were always there. And then even like I knew that they were there, helping with my kids. So a lot of people don't know, but I would have chemo on, I was on a 3 week schedule. So every third Saturday, I'd go to the city, get chemo, and then I would come home that night. My husband would be home Sunday. My mom would take Monday off to be with me, and then I would be on my own. Um, and my oldest was in play school, and then I had my youngest who was just a year old. Um, so there wasn't really ever time to like be sick, which I think was a huge blessing in disguise, because like when people are relying on you, especially your children are relying on you to be their caregivers, you don't have a choice but to show up. And obviously, like, at that point, we were told that I didn't have much time to live. So I was very happily doing all of the things and just kind of like pushing through. If I didn't, honestly, I didn't even really remotely feel sick. And again, I think that probably has something to do with um, my angels and my guides just helping me through. Um, they, there's so many things. Um, and like we don't believe in coincidences, right? So there's synchronicities that happen where that like things are lining up and aligning the way that they are, um not because you did anything. Like there's obviously like other things at play that are helping line those things up and helping you along this journey. um so yeah, they showed up everywhere. That they would show up in every session. They would, like I remember in one session you and I had, my father-in-law had said that he would come and visit my youngest in her crib and kind of like keep her occupied and keep her happy so that I could like squeeze in 10-15 extra minutes of sleep in the morning. And my grandpa would like comfort Finn and my son. And um yeah, they showed up everywhere.
And I just saw them like pulling strings behind the
Yeah,
scenes, like making the right doctors appear and just
a
everyone
hundred
who was
percent,
meant to support you.
100%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful. Okay. So you did mention there was, many different holistic modalities you tried as well. And I just want you to share the ones that you felt like really made a difference and really helped you on your journey.
Um, so
Sorry,
I
I used the
remember
word
when
journey.
oh, pardon,
I was
sorry.
like, sorry, I used the word journey again.
Oh,
Through
that's
this
okay.
time is what I
That's okay. Um, there was a lot. So I had met one naturopath, and it's funny because he had said to me, yeah, I don't think you have stage 4 cancer. And I was like, well, I do. So, newsflash, that is what's happening. And he was like, I don't know, maybe you're just like one of those people that just like lives and has cancer. Like, and he was like really nonchalant and just, and I was like, well, maybe, but probably not. Because honestly, like at that point, I hadn't really heard, um, I do know one lady who has stage 4 breast cancer, and she has had stage 4 breast cancer for probably close to a decade, if not a decade, and she is still here. Um, but she was like really the only person that I knew. And I had even like I had talked to her even. Um, but so anyway, I went to him and we tried a couple things and we just sometimes you just like don't align with people, right? Or sometimes you just like don't have that connection and that's okay. And so I never went back to him. And then one of my friends was like, "Oh, my aunt had breast cancer and she also saw a naturopath and this is where she went and this is who she saw and she's in remission and she's doing really good." And I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna give them a try." Um, and so I phoned there and I made an appointment. Um, and instantly, so I had to bring like all of my files and all of my documentation and paperwork and everything. And I remember sitting down, so it was two doctors. And I remember sitting down with both of them, and one of them was like, "Yeah, maybe you don't have stage 4 breast cancer." And I was like, "Oh my Lord, like, but I do." And like, this is what we're working with, right? And right off the bat, he was like, "Well, maybe it's autoimmune, maybe it's something else, maybe it's this, maybe it's that." But at that point, there was no one was going to biopsy my lung at that point. Like, it was like, "You have stage 4 breast cancer. It's presenting like breast cancer. It looks identical to, um, breast cancers that we've seen before. Very common. It was on the same side." There was so many things that were lining up, to make it, believe that it was stage 4. So, but they were like, "This is what I think we could try. If this is the chemotherapy that you're taking, if this is the immunotherapy that you're doing, we have this and this and this that work really well with this chemotherapy. And then we have this and this and this that will work really well with your immunotherapy. And then, we have like other supplements and things that can help, that can just like in general help your body kind of fight cancer." So one of the big ones, I was doing vitamin C, high dose vitamin C, which you have to do your own research on that. And yeah, a lot of oncologists don't believe in it. A lot of people don't believe in it. I think you do your own research and um, there's a lot of resources out there. And just kind of like go with what feels right to you. So that was one thing that we did, and we did it often. I did it really often. I want to say I was doing it maybe weekly.
Was it IV or
Yeah, it was IV. So I'd go
okay?
in and then they'd hook me up and then we'd do a huge drip. And then while I was getting the vitamin C IV, I was also doing mistletoe, which again, you can do your own research. Mistletoe is widely used, I want to say, in the UK. In cancer centers, it is very well known, to fight cancer. We do not use it in Canada or the States because it is not profitable, which is true. But they do use it in other countries. And so I was also doing, that. And then I was also doing mistletoe injections at home. So I would fill my little syringes and I would poke myself in the stomach. Um, I don't remember my schedule. I want to say like I did like 10 days and then I would take 4 days off. And we would always kind of, I think I would stop 2 days prior to my chemo and then start 2 days after my chemo. Like we would give my body, and the chemotherapy enough time to work, or, and then I just did a bunch of supplements. Again, I was very confident in my, um, homeopathic oncology team. Everything that we did was like backed by science, and they'll give you all of the information. And um, yeah, I still talk to my one homeopathic oncologist maybe once a year. The last time I talked to him, he was like, why are you calling me? What do you want? And I was like, actually, I just wanted to say hi, really. And then I just wanted some of his input and some of his insight on the hormonal therapy that I was taking. Um, so amazing. Um, they are not covered by any sort of insurance or healthcare, so I will put that out there. They are very expensive, but I feel like they're you're not really able to put a price on your life. So, um, I was hesitant because I knew how expensive it was going to be, but my husband was like, what is the point of anything if you're not here? Like, you know? Um, and so that I honestly, anyone who has cancer, I definitely recommend finding a naturopath that you like and that resonates with you. And then my uncle had also sent me this recipe for a lotion made with Rick Simpson oil. So Rick Simpson oil is made from a marijuana plant. Um, I don't know how you make the oil. I never made the oil. I would always just buy the oil. But Rick Simpson was able to cure his own skin cancer by extracting this oil from the plant and ingesting it, but you're also able to apply it topically. So I would make my own and I used it religiously and I still make it and I still use it and my children use it and my husband uses it and my parents use it um for really anything. But I used it after my surgeries to help heal and I used it after radiation and my skin, nothing happened to my skin with radiation, which we thought was pretty weird. And I thought it for sure was not working. Because I didn't burn, I didn't peel, I didn't look crispy. Honestly, nothing happened. It didn't even look like I'd been sunburned, which is really strange. And even I remember my radiation team being like, it's working, but we just can't tell that it's working because you don't look crispy. um, yeah, that's that's probably the gist of it. I mean, there's so much research that you can do. Definitely just go with your gut and, you know, trust if you're uncertain about something that you read on the internet or, something doesn't seem to make sense. There are always people that you can reach out to that, are able to assist and give you more information. But I I am definitely so thankful and grateful for Western medication and Western medicine and um, how much research has gone into it and how much research is still going into it. And there's so many new treatments and medications and immunotherapies and everything, but there are always other things as well that are just not as openly talked about.
Glad you were able to merge the two.
Hmm.
And yeah, just to add on what you were saying about like, if you are going through cancer, but I feel like any illness, right? There's so
Hmm.
many people out there who are struggling and they aren't getting the answers that they need. And I think that's the time when you want to start looking into these alternatives to support yourself.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you were going through this, do you feel like you had the support that you needed, like from your friends and family? And if not, what do you wish or how do you wish people would have showed up?
Um, no,
Hitting you with the hard question, sorry.
that's okay. That's a tricky one because a lot of people don't know how to show up for someone in those moments. I would have been one of them. had I not gone through it and had it been, someone close to me, I'm not really sure. I probably that's a really hard one. I feel like honestly I probably would have not really done anything. It's hard to answer because knowing what I know now, there's so much that I would do, but had I not gone through this experience, I um it was hard. I think it was hard for a lot of people. Um and I think more so just being so young and having a young family. And like I always think I was never scared of dying. I was never scared to leave. I was scared for my kids and I was scared for my husband. I was scared for my parents. It was never about me. Like had I had nothing, I would have been fine dying, right? But it's just the impact that you have on all those other people. The friends one is hard. There were people who I thought were going to show up that didn't. And then there were people who, you know, I would have never expected them to show up and they did. And then there was like complete strangers who showed up, um, that didn't owe me anything. And yeah, that's a hard one. It's a difficult one. And I think a lot of people were just like, maybe if we just treat her the same, um, you know, it won't be so difficult. Like I did have some family members who really did just like treat me the same. Like they'd, phone me the day after chemo and, rant about something or complain about something or like um which was nice in a sense because then it just made me feel like a normal person. But then at the same time, it's like it's hard. I didn't ever want anyone to pity me or to feel bad for me or to feel bad for my family. That's a hard one. Knowing what I know now, I would have, um, like, I would show up very differently for someone close to me who would be going through this. But in
How,
that time,
how would you show up?
um, I would, as crazy as this sounds, I would be that really annoying friend that's like texting you every single day, like checking in, hey, how are you? And in my head, I'm thinking like if whenever I would get like those text messages, hey, how are you? And I'd be like, you know how I am. It sucks. Like, um, in that moment, you're just like, you know how I am. Why do you keep asking? But then having been on the other side of it, you're like, you know what? Even though I was so annoyed, and even though I probably one word answered them every time, they still showed up. They still, even if I would ignore their text messages, they would text me the next day and they just were just a constant. And I wish like people would have gotten me out of the house more, I guess. That's difficult to say because it was like right in the midst of it, it was COVID, so we couldn't really do anything anyway. Um, I think all of the people who were meant to show up showed up, and all of the ones who didn't show up, um, there was a reason for that. And there's, oh, I'm probably 75% of the relationships and friendships I had prior to cancer, I don't have anymore. And it's not because anybody did anything wrong or it's just right. Like, yeah, I think just continuously showing up, even if you feel like they don't want you to show up, even if you feel like they don't want you there. Even like if somebody would have just like come over and like, hey, you don't have to answer the door, but I'm dropping coffee off on your doorstep. Or, like, hey, I left a little surprise for you outside, outside your door. go check. And I did have friends do that. Yeah, it's so difficult, and people always say this, but you really find out like who your true friends are and who's really in your corner and who really supports you when your life gets really shitty, right? Like when shit hits the fan and people show up, those are the people that you know who are meant to be in your life, right? Whereas like you have those friends that like, oh, the minute something gets a little bit not great, they're kind of like, oh, sorry, which is totally okay. Um, but yeah, I think just the constant support.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I feel like it must have put a lot of things into perspective.
Oh, definitely. It puts so many things into perspective, and just like relationships and friendships that I had just put so much time and effort into. And then the minute that I got sick was just like disappeared. And you're like, that's okay. Um, because you really come to the realization that like your time and your energy is just so important. And like, what is the point of wasting it on people like that?
Right.
Right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Um, okay, so mindset is so important when you're experiencing any kind of illness or setback in life. Um, Tell me how your mindset played a role in your healing.
Um, it was huge. On days where you wake up and you tell yourself like this is going to be a shitty day, it's a shitty day.
Mhm.
Um, so, and I mean, at that point, my mindset had changed so much to just being grateful. I'm so grateful I get to wake up this morning and look at myself in the mirror with no hair and no eyelashes and no eyebrows, but I'm still here, and I'm so thankful and grateful that I still get to be a mom today, even though it's going to be hard and there's going to be a million messes to pick up, and there's going to be potty training accidents, and there's going to be diapers, and there's going to be so many boring, mundane things. But I am so thankful and so grateful that I get to do those things. Um, Mindset changed everything. And then when it came to my healing, um, your body can't heal if you're in like a constant state of like a fight or flight or disconnectment, I guess. Um, and just listening to my body. Like there'd be days where I'd phone my mom at work and be like, "Mom, like you have to take the rest of the day off. I just need to rest. Like I just need a nap, and I'm not gonna get one because my kids are running around and I need help." Really just listening to my body, but there was a lot of, you and I had practiced a lot of meditation. I did a lot of yoga. Um, so even just like meditating and like envisioning that white light and just like envisioning my body being whole again and envisioning um like myself with no sickness and no illness, and just envisioning myself being a whole healthy human being again made such a huge difference. And like when you tell yourself and you get it into your mind that you can do something, you can do it. You will do it. It's just like shifting that mindset. But I mean, you know, that was like a 95%, and then 5% of the days I'd wake up and be like, I can't do this. Like, just take me. You know, like um, but it's a lot once you've gone through it and then you continuously do it, it just becomes a lot easier. um
Yeah, you create
and
those
just
new
yeah,
pathways in your brain.
yeah, 100%, right? Like um just that entire experience just made me so much more grateful. um like some mornings I'd wake up and like dread having to make breakfast, and dread having to drive to school, and it was just like dread, dread, dread. And then like that doesn't happen anymore. And after that diagnosis, it didn't happen very often just because time was so limited. Um, and I mean, time is still very limited. If I wouldn't want anyone to have to go through that kind of scare, but at the same time, it opens your mind to like actually enjoy being alive.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I feel like so many of us take that for granted, myself included. Like you saying that there's a shift right there, right? Like I'm
Yeah.
not a morning person, so in the morning I'm struggling. But yeah, how blessed am I that I get to drive my kids to school and I get
Yeah.
to not have to rush around to run to a job after, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
It makes a huge difference. And like, it's funny because even now I will have, those little like shifts. But there's some mornings we're driving to school and I'll see like, the beautiful sunrise. And I'm just like, like I'll even sometimes like have tears in my eyes. And my son's just like, oh my God, you're crying again. And he'd be like, are you all right? And I'm like, no, I'm just like, I'm so thankful and I'm so grateful. Like, I get to drive you to school and we, are looking at this amazing sunset or sunrise, and like how lucky, how lucky are we? How lucky am I that I still get to do this? Um, yeah, it happens more often than not. And it's just so funny because he's like, oh my God, mom's crying again. And I'm just like, I'm crying because I'm happy because there's a lot of people who don't get to experience these things. And um, yeah, when you can change your mindset, it just makes all the difference. It really does.
Hmm. And do you have any tips? 'Cause I know this can be quite a struggle for people. So do you have any tips like start small or what are some practices you can do to start to shift?
Honestly, like putting yourself in someone else's position is probably the biggest one. Like, I don't think I ever envisioned myself to be in the position that we were in 5 years ago. Um, and now there's so many more young moms and dads who are being diagnosed with cancer who might not get the same miracles and or might get different miracles or um we see like the LA fires. We've been through fires before, and just like, I think about that. Like, um, there was one person who had posted like he was driving his son to a brand new school in a new area, and like he was like, I feel so bad for my kid because like he's the kid who's like school burnt down and whose house burnt down and all the things. And it's like when you put yourself in other people's positions, it makes you so grateful for where you're at. Um, and also like comparison is the thief of joy. So when you compare yourself to someone on social media who's a morning person and whose mornings are so beautiful and they listen to classical music and they drink hot coffee and their kids are playing, and that's not real. We know that that's not real. Um, like to just, I think once you can just be where you're at, I think makes all the difference. And like the littlest things, like think of one thing you love to do in the morning. Maybe it's drink hot coffee, but you wake up after your kids, so you never get to sit down and enjoy hot coffee because you're reheating it in the microwave 17 times. So, if that's the case, but that would mean so much to you, Jesus, that's scared me. Set your alarms every time. Set your alarms for 15 minutes before your kids would get up. Go get that hot cup of coffee, just sit in your bed and enjoy like the first two, three sips. And then maybe you love getting ready in the morning. So if your kids get up and then you're just kind of running after them and you don't have time to do that, get up a little bit earlier. If you love to meditate, or maybe moving your body is something you love to do in the morning, and that would really like help wake you up and help get you ready for the day. Get up 5 minutes earlier, or just like don't scroll on your phone in the morning and get out of bed and stretch. Do a little yoga. Like also, I think, and this has been proven time and time again, do not touch your phone in the morning.
Mhm.
Right when you get up, don't check your phone. Our brains are instantly searching for dopamine as soon as we get up. And so we just think, we'll just look at our phones. But that is literally a dopamine killer. Instead, like get up, open your curtains, like take in the beautiful sunrise, or have your kids crawl into bed with you and give them like a little extra snuggle, or I don't know, I'm a morning person. I love mornings. I could give you all the things, but just really like thinking like, what do I love to do in the morning? What's something that like when I open my eyes, I'm like, ooh, I'm excited to do that. For me, honestly, I'm excited for hot coffee. So I
Yeah.
get out of bed and I make myself a cup of coffee and then I get back into bed. And even if it's for like 10 minutes, it's still like just 10 minutes where I can just enjoy and just be present.
Mhm.
And I feel like it makes all the difference.
Yeah. Or even
Mhm.
like a simple thank you when you wake up.
Yeah. Thank you for letting me wake up again today.
Mhm.
That's actually funny because we have a really old dog, and every day that he wakes up, we're like, Bambi, you're still alive.
Yeah, I know. I feel
Yay.
that too with my old boys. Like,
Yeah,
you're here.
right. Yeah, just really anything instead of like waking up thinking that like thinking that like, oh, you're just dreading the day. There's always so much good in the day,
Mhm.
right? So it's just focusing on those things.
Beautiful. Okay. So, um, what do you wish you would have known back when you got diagnosed? So, when you first found out, if you could give yourself any advice during that time, what would it be?
I don't know that probably just to like relax a little bit. Um, I don't think I do anything different. Obviously, knowing what I know now, but I would not know the things that I know now had I not gone through that. Um, had I not had that experience, I'd probably still be like control freak, micromanaging every, thing in my household. Um, yeah, obviously I want to say to just trust, but it's difficult. And I can't even say that like, oh, you'll like learn to do it. I guess you will learn to trust, but maybe just having more faith. Faith came up so much for me. Um, and just like your mindset can do so, so much.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when you were in fear, that's when you would get the bad test results or, something would happen.
Yeah.
And then, like, as soon as you were able to shift it, then things started
Yeah.
aligning. And it was like in real time,
Yeah.
like minutes, hours, days,
Yeah.
like how powerful your mind was. I
A hundred
remember,
percent.
yeah, even when I was going through postpartum, it was the same. It was like, that was the biggest, probably the first time in my life I realized like my thoughts create my reality.
Yeah.
And what I'm focusing on is manifesting all around me. And I need to like switch this.
Mm-hmm. It's huge.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy. I feel like we went over this, but in case there's anything you want to add, how has this experience changed your perspective on life and what would you say are the most important things in life?
Mm. My perspective has definitely changed. The things that I used to care about, I really don't anymore. You and I have had this conversation many times. I really, I used to really care what people thought about me, and I don't anymore. And I can't tell you how freeing and liberating that is. Um, yeah, like I don't think if I was still very much like in that mindset and still that person, I probably would have never started Pretty Little Sparkles. I probably wouldn't have done a lot of things actually that I've done or that I'm doing. Yeah, that is a really, really big one. And I don't know how and I don't know when I stopped caring. I want to say probably when we moved, maybe like 4 years ago when like we moved somewhere completely by ourselves. We didn't know anybody. Um, and then we just like organically made friends. And it's so funny as you meet people when you're like a grown up versus like your childhood friends or friends that you knew in like your, adolescence, early adulthood type years. Um, but yeah, just not caring. And then people's opinions of you are none of your business. And most times, when people say something about you, either to you or to someone else, it is 100% a reflection of themselves. Most times, it has nothing to do with you. And I think like just going through that cancer experience just made me have like not tough skin. I'm definitely softer in that way. But I'm definitely tougher in the sense of like I don't have the energy for that. So it's like, I don't know. I just don't care.
Yeah, which is so freeing.
It is so freeing. It is so freeing. And then just like enjoying, honestly, just enjoying the little things.
Mhm.
Um, there's just so many little moments in the day that can just be like cherished and enjoyed that I don't think we really like pay attention to. Um, and when you start to just like focus on those little things, it just makes so much of a difference.
Beautiful. And yeah, so I'm sharing this on my YouTube channel, and if people scroll, they'll see we did some interviews with some celebrities who have crossed over. So I was gonna ask, I feel like you were spiritual, and you did mention you were spiritual before this happened, but do you feel like it opened you up even more? And do you feel like this was a spiritual awakening in some
100%. 100%. Um, I remember when my grandpa had just passed, I would go to you and be like, ask my grandpa this.
sense?
Or like, can you check in and see if my grandpa needs to tell me something? Um, um, and I don't have to ask you anymore. I can do that on my own. Um, and oh, yeah, it's opened just because we're all walking miracles, right? Just like life in itself is a miracle, how we are created is a miracle. Um, but the fact that like I was given another miracle. Um, and I mean, we're given miracles every single day, but it's just a matter of like, are you open to it? Right? Um, so it has opened me up so much more and just um being able to like channel certain spirits and my grandpa obviously and like you and I have a very you and I are very different in how we, right? Like how we can channel and how we can speak to those who have passed over. You speak to way more people than I do. I'm like still kind of more closed off, I think. Um, but it's yeah, it's opened up so much more. And even like when I talk to my husband and I'll say something like, oh my gosh, the lights flickered. And he's like, okay. I'm like, and he's like, oh my God, no, it's just the lights flickering, that kind of thing, right? And like my children are also very spiritual, very, very spiritual. Um, and so, we'll find a feather and we'll be like, oh my God, it's our angels. And then my husband's like, we have a feather couch. It's a feather. Right? Whereas like we're always like, no, it's signs, it's so much more. Um, Whereas like probably before I would have been like him, like, oh my God, there's feathers everywhere because we have a down couch. It makes sense. Like, um, yeah, but this feather is not what's in the couch. Um, yeah, it's opened me up so much more. I always did believe, um, and I've done Reiki forever with you, and we've done card readings, all that kind of stuff. Um, but it wasn't really till I like went through that experience and then I got my very first deck of angel cards. And oh my goodness, those would be like spot on every single time, every single time. And I'd be like, oh my gosh. Like I remember one time I had pulled a trust, miracle, and then like something else, but I was just like, oh my goodness, and like it just like sends like shivers down your spine because you're just like, whoo. Um, yeah, it's opened up so much more, which is obviously amazing.
Yeah, I
And
love
it's I'm like, and I'm still learning some of the things because just recently with the one interview that we did when I was like, I think I'm losing my mind. Right? Like so it's yeah, it's like it's an awakening, but it's almost like I would say that this would be a journey,
right.
like yeah, because you're constantly learning and there's constantly new things coming. But I feel like once you're opened up, um, also when I stopped being afraid of dying,
Mm-hmm.
that was a really big shift.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. Yeah,
Oh,
that was a
I've
huge.
got angel bumps.
There's a
Hey,
huge shift when you stop being scared of death.
right. And
Mm.
then even knowing, right? I feel like so many people move through life and they may think or hope that there is like a heaven or an afterlife, but they don't know. And I feel like when you can connect to spirit and experience where they are and how they feel, that helps to let go of the fear. Yeah. Hey, if anyone watching is going through this or something similar, what would you tell them?
It gets better. It gets better. And um there's like if you start living in the moment and instead of trying to live a year from now or trying to live 6 months from now and just really just enjoying where you're at and loving the people who love you and enjoying those like small things, life becomes just so much more meaningful and incredible. And it kind of opens you up to seeing this much bigger picture. And it really does get better.
Thank you. I feel that just makes me want to cry. Well, thank you. I appreciate you are so wise. And, even before you've always had that like nurturing, like therapist like energy. But I feel like, yeah, just everything you've been through has made that you even more in touch with that deeper soul wisdom. So I appreciate everything you shared today and for being so open and vulnerable. And yeah, maybe just if anyone wants to reach out or find you, where can they find you?
They can find me on Instagram. It's not my personal Instagram anymore. It is my business, but it's just me, and it is at Shop Pretty Little Sparkles. You can DM me. I'm happy to answer any questions. I've had tons of people, tons of women reach out, either with like cancer diagnoses or cancer scares. I'm happy to share anything. Yeah, if you need any support, you can find me on Instagram. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you again.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate you so much.
Thank you.